What is up, guys? Razor here. Welcome to the 100% complete Bestiary for Final Fantasy 15. Every single Bestiary entry will be showed here. Starting with the Reaper Tail, Saber Tusk. And Saber Tusk has multiple pages here: Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Pause the video if you need to read. If you want to read the Flex Tusk, Mesminer. And I may mispronounce some of these names, so if I do, I apologize. Yeah, Alpha and Beta. Magnaneer. Dualhorn. Alpha and Beta. Dualhorn again. I guess it's same. Or is that? Yeah, it's the same. Okay, I see. Ashenhorn. A Shinhorn, something like that. Grandhorn. Bloodhorn. Alpha and Beta. Anak. Alpha and Beta. Anak Stag. Which is the biggest Anak. Anak Calf. Anakabon, something like that. Anak Odom. Stone Shears. Ruby Shears. Spark Shears. The dreaded Coeurl. Again, I don't know if it's how you pronounce Coeurl. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. I always call them Coeurls. They're in they're in a lot of Final Fantasies, and I just always call them Coeurls. Could be Coeurl or something like that. Coeurl. I don't know. But Alpha and Beta. Dagger Quill. Cactar. Recurring Final Fantasy enemy. Alpha and Beta and Gamma or Gamma. Slacktar. It's a cactar that likes to slack off. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Gigantar, which is like a giant cactar. One of the hunts of the game. Rogue Behemoth. A regular Behemoth. Always massive. In a lot of Final Fantasy games. Jormungand. Which is a boss battle in the Crest Home channels. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Benu, which is fought during one of the Legend. A Legend is Born side quests for Randolph. Manjom, which I think fought in one of the Menace dungeons, I think. Behemoth King fought before the final battle in the original game. It's not fought in the Royal Pack DLC. You fight Cerberus instead. Alpha, Beta. And then the last one in Lighty is the super boss Adamantoise. Epic. If it'll ever load. Game. There we go. And by the way, it's so awesome to see Adamantoise as a super boss. It's been just like a regular enemy in a lot of Final Fantasies. And it was a boss in Final Fantasy 2. But it's finally a super boss. First time it's ever been a super boss is in this game. Now we're moving on to Dusky. Starting with the Garula. Or Garula. Alpha. And Beta. Garulet. Guess it's kind of like a baby Garula. And Garula was a boss in Final Fantasy V, by the way. Green Garula. It's like a Garula, but it's green. And I guess here's the mama, Garulessa. Alpha and Beta. Vortooth. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Yellowtooth. Boulette. That thing looks vicious. That was these are enemies in other Final Fantasies though. Final Fantasy X, I know they were in there. Scambulette. Or Scambulette. Killer Bee. Alpha and Beta. Brutal Bee. Dynavis. Something like that. Hunlegs. Redlegs. Toad, which is also another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. Alpha and Beta. Arba. So this is Dusky's version of the Anax. Arba Gadol. Elder Co-Earl. Or Co-Earl. I'm just going to call them Co-Earls because that's what I've always called them. But like I said, it could be Co-Earl. Or it could be pronounced entirely different. I don't know. But Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Looks like there's one more too. And Delta. Griffin. Beta. Or Alpha and Beta. And Gamma. Deadeye. Behemoth Tyrant. Catobopus, which is a boss and a summon in other Final Fantasy games. Kujata. Molo Kujata. Phalaris. Alpha and Beta. Jabberwock, otherwise known as Shutterwock. And remember, it's jaws that bite and it's claws that catch. Groat Slang. It was like last on the Dust Guy's the Bilrost, which is fought in the Menace Dungeon. That's it for Dust Guy. Now on to Klein or Clain or however you pronounce it. Saberclaw. Alpha and Beta. Megaloclaw. I had to say that twice. Havoc Fang. Can't even see its face. Alpha and Beta. Mushushu. Something, I don't know how to pronounce that. But Alpha and Beta. Mushmohu. I don't know how to pronounce that either. Spiracorn. It comes from Final Fantasy X. I'm kidding. Alpha and Beta. Diplicorn. Or Dipilcorn. I can't tell if it's IL or LI. Duplicorn or Dupilcorn, something like that. Lucorn. Shield Shears. So we got the Return of the Crab enemies. Mighty Shears. Now we got the return of the Scorpions. With the Sapphire Tail. Or Sapphire Tail. Sapphire Tail. Alpha and Beta. And then we have Reaper King, which is I guess the king of the Scorpions. Alpha and Beta. Next up we have Thunder Rock. Alpha and Beta. Next up we have Copper Rock. Sahajin, which is a recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. These things are in a lot of Final Fantasies. And it seems like they look different every time. Square Enix can't make up their mind what they look like. Alpha and Beta. Next up we have Abagin. Or Albinogin. Albinogin or something like that. Yeah, it's Albinogin. Alphagin. Wait, was there any? No, that was it. Okay. Sea Devil. Alpha and Beta. And Gamma. Coral Devil. Alpha and Beta. Next up we have Chickatrice, which was in Final Fantasy 12. If you remember correctly, you had to fight the Cockatrice and the Cluckatrice, and then the Chickatrice. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. Regaltrice, Regaltrice. Alpha and Beta. Basilisk, which is in a lot of RPGs, not just Final Fantasy. Pretty much a recurring fantasy in a lot of fantasy games. A lot of them, they turn you to stone or whatever. Royalisk. Or Royalisk, something like that. Alpha and Beta. And Gamma. And then we have the Cockatrice. Alpha and Beta. Next up we have the Chickatrice, which is fought in one of the Menace dungeons. Alpha, Beta, and Gamma. Next up we have the Heckentoad. Alpha and Beta. I'm going to stop saying Alpha and Beta because it's like redundant at this point. Gaia Toad. But just pause the video if you need to read the alpha and beta, though. If you want to read it anyway. Killer Wasp. I'll try to leave it on screen for a few seconds anyway. Soldier Wasp. Killer Queen, which is an enemy in Radiata Stories. That's what it's called in Radiata Stories, except it's an ant in Radiata Stories. It's like a rare enemy in Radiata Stories. That's my favorite game, so I figured I'd mention it. Mandrake. Trent, which is in some Final Fantasy games. It's in Final Fantasy 12, I know that. Quetzalcoatl from Final Fantasy 8. And I'm sure it's in other Final Fantasies as well, I think. But I can't think of them off the top of my head. But I know for sure it was an 8, because it was a GF in 8. Mictlantecodal, something like that. I don't know how to pronounce that thing, so if I pronounced it wrong, oh well. Mictlantecodal is how I pronounce it. Wyvern, or Wyvern. Not sure how the correct pronunciation of that is either. I've always called them wyverns, but it could be wyvern. Sorry if you heard that. Next up we have Carla Bose, which is a boss in Final Fantasy V. And then we have the rogue Carla Bose. Next up we have Bandersnatch, which is never usually this big in Final Fantasy games. In Final Fantasy X it was just like a wolf. But in this game it's a giant thing. Giant like dinosaur looking thing. But yeah, in Final Fantasy X it was just a wolf. And I think it's in other Final Fantasies as well, I'm pretty sure. I remember it from the older Final Fantasies. I think it was in 5 too. And then we have here the Aspidichalon or something like that. And then we have the Almighty Zoo, which is in a lot of Final Fantasy games. Final Fantasy 4. I remember in Final Fantasy 4 grinding it because it gives so much EXP in Final Fantasy 4 at that point in the game. And it's not that hard to defeat in Final Fantasy 4 either. So you can just keep farming it. And then we have the almighty Midgard Zormer. So back-to-back epic enemies from Final Fantasy. Most notably from Final Fantasy 7, it was called the Midgard Zolom. Zolom. I think it was Midgard Zolom or something like that. Final Fantasy 7. It wasn't called the Midgard Zormer. It was Zolom. Yeah, pretty epic enemy. And next up we have the Havit Amor, or something like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Next up we have the Malbo Doom. which is a very evil looking Marlboro. Then we have its sprout, which is Marlboro Brat. It's like its offspring, I guess you could say. Like a baby Marlboro. Alright, next up we have Niflheim. And we get the first enemy is the Falksfang. Or Falksfang or something like that. Then we have the Gorgongatch. The old mighty Marlboro, which is in a lot of Final Fantasy games, and it's very annoying with its nasty bad breath attack. Don't get hit by the bad breath, or else you'll be inflicted with a ton of status ailments. Most notably really annoying in the Omega Ruins in Final Fantasy X, because if you don't have First Strike or a ribbon effect, you're pretty much going to hit with a ton of status ailments because it always gets the First Strike unless you have First Strike. And then the Marlboro Sprout. Alpha and Beta. Well, I'm like, why am I saying that? Okay, next up we have the demons. There's a lot of these. It's going to take a while to go through this list. Goblin. They look pretty evil in Final Fantasy 15. But they're in a lot of Final Fantasies. I know in Final Fantasy 1. They're also in Final Fantasy 9 as well. I remember them from 9. I think they're in other Final Fantasies as well. Glamhoff. Snaga. Imp. Alva. Garchi Chimera, which was in Final Fantasy 12 as well. Salpinx or Salpinx. Eresh Gagal. God, some of these names. I'm trying to go a little bit faster now because Alberich. Because there's a lot of demons here, so I'm just going to try to go as fast as I can. Hobgoblin. But I'll still scroll through the alpha and beta and stuff. And again, just pause the video if you need to read it. But Buseman? Busemand? I don't know how to pronounce that. Busmand? I have no clue. Skeleton. Which is also another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series as well. Reaper. Like a larger skeleton with a sai. Bomb, another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. Watch out for its self-destruct. Grenade, another recurring enemy. It's like a more powerful bomb. Ice bomb, which is basically an ice elemental bomb. Cryonade. It's like a more powerful ice bomb. Thunderbomb. Galvanade. A more powerful Thunderbomb. Arimon, which is fought in the Royal Pack DLC. Was not in the original game. Wait, I think oops, I accidentally... Let me go back up. I was at Floating Death. There we go. Sorry about that. Another enemy from the Royal Pack DLC. Regular Flan. Another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. Very resistant to physical attacks. So you gotta use magic on them. Jumbo Flan. Creme brulee. Gelatin. Barbaroy or something like that. Marshmallow. Custard. Doloy. Matcha Mouse. Black Flan. As you can tell, there's a lot of Flan enemies in this game. Lakmu Flan, which is a boss in the Menace dungeon. Hectize. Very creepy enemy. Ronin, which is the first samurai enemy that I'm showing. Aramusha, which is a super boss. Yojimbo, which is a recurring enemy. He's in Final Fantasy X. I know that. I don't know if there's any other Final Fantasies or not, but I know it's in 10. And 10-2. Kingo. Or this might be the super boss right here. Ayakashi. I don't know if that's the super boss or the other one. I'm not sure. Mind Flare, another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. Very annoying enemy. It usually has moves like Mind Blast, which can paralyze your characters. It was very annoying in Final Fantasy 1. It was also very annoying in Final Fantasy Tactics as well. Brain Drainer. Lich. Wraith. Necromancer. Pretty annoying enemy right here. Oops. I didn't mean to back out of there. Let me go back in there. Let me go down. Back to where I was at. Sorry about that. Pyro or Psychomancer. Arachne. Yeah, Square Enix also like to put a bunch of spider ladies in this game as well. So we've seen a lot of those. Ariadne. You two. Tarantula. Coke Yang Woody or something like that. I have no clue how to pronounce that. Iron Giant, another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. A super boss in Final Fantasy 3 DS and the PC version as well. And also a random encounter boss in Final Fantasy 2 as well. But it's also another Final Fantasies as well. Ganymede. Or Ganymede. Gargantua. Red Giant, which is a boss in Final Fantasy VIII. Chandra Varma. Naga. A very creepy looking snake lady. Serpentis. Naga Rani. An even more creepier snake lady. Mahan Naga. Deathclaw. Yugioh Talon. It's a boss battle. Or super boss, I mean. Alright. No, this is the boss. This is the super boss right here, my bad. Naglfar. Gargoyle. Forest. Ziggurat. So I think a hunt, and you can also fight it in the Menace dungeons as well. Chatternuke. You cannot rotate this one because it's very graphic. Obviously, it's a demon painting and also a female as well. Demon Wall. Wonder if it shows both paintings. I don't think it does. I think it just shows the demon. Yeah, I don't know why it won't let me rotate. That's weird. Melusine. Again, you can't rotate this one either because it's female. You can't rotate female images in this game. Tonberry. It's another recurring enemy in the Final Fantasy series. And a Final Fantasy mascot as well. Master Tonberry. Sir Tonberry. Sir Tonberry is basically Yoda. Just flips around and stuff. Ravis. Cerberus, which is fought in the Royal Pack DLC. And also in Kingdom Hearts. It kind of looks the same as it did in Kingdom Hearts 2 as well. Not really much of a difference between this version and the one in Kingdom Hearts. The Mystic. The Fierce. And the Rogue. You can actually rotate her though. And in the final boss, Arden. We're not done yet though. So we can go over again and we have Imperials and then we have the avatars. Imperial Riflemen. Imperial or Battery Soldier. Imperial Sniper. Magitech Axeman. Magitech Axeman higher level. And keep in mind the higher level ones, the lower level ones are missable. Because they basically evolve into the next tier later in the game. Armored Axemen. So just make sure to fight the lower level ones. You can't miss the higher level ones, but you can miss the lower level ones. Magitech Swordsman. Armored Swordsman. Armored Assassin. Magitech Assassin. Imperial Spearman. They have a giant spear. Magitech Bannerman. There's 3 of those. They each have different levels. Make sure not to miss them. Magitech Bannerman. And then Magitech Bannerman, the final level one. Just make sure not to miss the early level ones. Like I did. I missed the level 6 one. And I had to go back and fight it. You can fight the level 6 one in Chapter 2. I don't know about the other ones. Shock Trooper. Rogue Axeman. Haywire Axeman. Eternal Trooper. Eternal Artilleryman. M.A. Velis. Oops, there's 2. Let me go back to that one. M.A. Hoplomachus. Or Machus. Hoplomachus. Hoplomachus, but this one's fought in the Royal Pack DLC. Velis. M.A. Velis Bis. M.A.X. Curus. M.A.X. Curus. Higher level. M.A.X. Manipole. M.A.X. Manipole. Insomnia Ruins. M.A.X. Patra. Or Patria. M.A.X. Dux. M.A.X. Angelus Zero, which is a super boss. Aranea. And Omega, another super boss from Final Fantasy V as well. Pretty epic. The music that plays during this fight is really good as well. Titan. Oh, and that's Astral, by the way, not Avatar. Astral's 400 feet tall, by the way. Leviathan's 3,000 feet tall. That's insane. Ifrit. Or Ifrit. Ramu. Shiva. Behemoth. And that's it. That's the complete bestiary for Final Fantasy 15. It took a long time to do because I had to go through every single one of them. The alphas and the betas and the gammas and all that stuff. But that's every single bestiary entry in Final Fantasy 15. I'll scroll through the list again. And that'll be it for this video. I'm not sure how many enemies there were in this game. I think there was over 200. I know that. I counted 200. I think it was like 220 or something like that. 220, 230, something like that. Feel free to count them yourself if you want to, but I did count them, but I forgot the exact amount. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you want to see all the bosses of this game, you can check that out on my channel, Final Fantasy 15 All Bosses. And that's it. Later.